Well, welcome to CSL Greater Boston, a place where souls are nurtured and lives are transformed through the use of the principles and practices of the science of mind philosophy, founded by Dr. Ernest Holmes. My name is Reverend George Stewart, or Rev G as I prefer, and I am privileged to be of service as a founder and spiritual leader along with Reverend Ed Tansey, and we welcome all here in the sanctuary this morning, and we welcome our Facebook Live community as well. We are located in beautiful Cambridge, Massachusetts, on 50 Dudley Street. Thank you for all those who financially support this live stream ministry, and if you have not yet and would like to, we welcome you to offer your support by going to our website at cslboston.org and click on the Donate tab, which is in the lower left of the home page. So as we know, this year we have been talking about values-based living, which is the theme for this year from Centers for Spiritual Living. And that is based upon the shared values of the greater organization. And of course, this month we're talking about community service, which is one of the shared values of our greater organization. And that falls into many different ideas, not just community service as many of us think of it. And that's what we've been talking about all this month. So, this day, my title for our talk is Your Life Isn't For You. Now I know, last week we said it's all about me, and this week we're saying your life isn't for you. What's going on? Right? It sounds crazy, right? But it's that, as we discussed last week, it's that it may be all about me because that's where I need to start, but I also have to be aware that I'm one with the whole. So that's what today's talk is about today. It's really about realizing that we are a part of something much greater. And so, the overall topic of what I want to share with you today is wholeness and how that translates into our lives. So first I want to talk about the science of mind understanding of wholeness and what we believe about wholeness, what other faith traditions teach about this idea of wholeness or being in a place of givingness, and then the reciprocal nature of the universe and how that works in our lives and brings about wholeness by our being whole in consciousness. And then how our beliefs about wholeness affect our daily lives. So Ernest Holmes said, "We should allow the gifts of life to flow out to everything we touch, everyone we meet, every situation we contact. Then, wherever we go, every situation is blessed, every person is helped, every discord is harmonized without our even being conscious of it." That's a powerful concept. Think about that. So if we go into that place of being in the flow in everything that we're doing, we are harmonizing the world. We're harmonizing the whole. So that's our understanding of what it is that we believe in science of mind. So it's very, very powerful. So the reason I'm saying this is that this philosophy, we understand that we are a part of a greater whole, and that whole we call God, or Mother, Father God, or Yahweh, or whatever name we choose to call our higher power. But we are part of that whole. There is no separation. It is all one in unity. We are all one unified in this one energy that we call life as we experience it, but that we call God, which is the wholeness that is always available to us. So I always love to think of, the song that we sing in here every so often when we do the collection, and that's, what is it? Who's given what to whom? Right? That's the Eddie Watkins song that we sing. And it's like, if God is all there is, then who is given what to whom? Right? But it's true. It's true all the time, but we forget it. We forget it as we get it wrapped up in life and our human experience, because our human experience loves to pull us out of our oneness. Because we live in a universe that has an appearance of separation. And so we have to live in that universe and not let it take us away from our oneness. And that's what this is all about. That's what our lives are all about. That's the power of all of this. So what I choose individually will affect the whole, and then anything that happens to the whole will affect me. So it's really powerful to recognize that there's something much greater going on here than what we realize. So it is to give and take logically. So when we go through life, it's giving and taking in a logical manner. A logical manner of recognizing that how is my giving and my taking affecting the whole? Because as I give and I take, the whole is affected. So then it will come back into my life and appear as my life as well. So it's not just me. It's not all about me, as we said last week. It's all about me and how I am a part of the whole. So it's bringing that bigger picture into alignment with things. So Ernest Holmes said, so true givingness is the transmitting of the self to everything we do. I think that's a really powerful beginning there. True givingness is the transmitting of the self to everything we do. So giving ourselves wholly and completely and fully in life. So it doesn't matter what it is, the outpouring of ourself into every undertaking with an enthusiastic zest, love, kindness, and friendliness. So if we're in that place of giving, in that place of zest, love, kindness, and friendliness, what are we doing to the whole? How are we affecting the whole? We're giving something into the whole that then will come back to us. Is that not true? Mm-hmm. Have you ever noticed that when you give kindness, that it kind of shows up back in your life? And sometimes like immediately, sometimes maybe not immediately, but you will always experience more of what you're putting into the universe. So I wanted to take a look at some of the different faith traditions and what they teach or what they look at. And so I want to start with, first of all, the Christian, which is Luke 6, verse 38, and that's give and it is given unto you. As I give, so it is given unto me. So as we give, it comes back. So in Islam, there is zakat, and that's the paying of alms or charity tax to benefit the poor and the needy. So this is a part of the 5 pillars of Islam. So we look at, Judaism. There is, and I'm sure I'm going to say this wrong because I don't speak very good Hebrew, tzedakah. And tzedakah translates to righteousness, justice, and or fairness. But it is an obligation in Judaism. It was so interesting that the article that I looked this up in, it was talking about, this person was talking about, they were deeply Jewish. This was their faith. And they always felt so hurt when people said Jewish charity and used that as an oxymoron. Because they said they have no idea that this is an obligation within Judaism. Is giving 10% to charity. That would mean your community, that would mean whatever that was, to them. And so it's all about bringing righteousness. I mean, let's talk about this. I go to hospitals all the time, and what do you see? All these names on the hospitals, and so many of them have Jewish names. So they understand, and they're creating good here in this life. That's what their teaching is. So it's very powerful. It's very powerful. People don't realize that. So it's just a different idea or concept of charity. In Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, Danya, which is like D with a tilde over the top, and A, is the practice of cultivating generosity, which is charity or the giving of alms. So we see there is this tied connection between all of the different faith systems. And so even us, as religious scientists, Ernest Holmes said, it is quite a burden lifted when we realize that we do not have to move the world, it is going to move anyway. Isn't that a great thing, right? But he goes on to say, this realization does not lessen our duty or social obligation. It clarifies it. It enables us to do joyously and freely free from morbidity that which we should do in the social state. So even Ernest Holmes is telling us we need to be a part of that givingness in community. Not only in our home community, but in our greater community and in the world community. Like right now, we have the opportunity to hold consciousness for all those in Florida. So we can hold a place of peace and a place of love and a place of knowing that there is a divine perfection revealing itself even in Irma right now. So we have that opportunity, and all those in Texas after Harvey. So there's all these different opportunities for us to be in a place of givingness. And that's a part of that social state that Ernest Holmes is talking to us about. So then I want to talk to you about the reciprocal nature of the universe. This is one of our core concepts, core concept 7, the reciprocal nature of the universe. In this, Ernest Holmes talks about how God is in this and talks about how it works in our life. You know, many of you who have had Beyond Limits know, we've talked about this particular concept. So when he talks about the thing itself, which was his pet name for God, which I love that, that in 1920 something or other, when he wrote The Science of Mind, calling God the thing itself. Can you imagine? Now you know why he left Boston and he went to California. Because you imagine calling God the thing itself here. Back in those days was not a good thing. But anyway, he says the thing itself, this is a reciprocal universe. For every visible form, there is an invisible counterpart. So there is that unseen that is bringing that form or holding that form in place. Everything in nature tends to equalize itself to keep its balance true. So there's always balance. Even in the things that we look at and go, how can there be balance in that? But there's chaos theories that are talking about how there is organization within chaos. So there's always this divine perfection trying to reveal itself in that perfect reciprocal universe. So the way it works in the human is that human life demonstrates the reciprocal nature of the universe in the laws of attraction, right? As we put our attention on things, we draw things back to us or into our life. Giving and receiving, again, that circular, that continuous reciprocal nature. Mental equivalence, that's when we set an intention or a belief about something, and we hold that intention and we experience that intention, and that intention comes into form in our life, creating a mental equivalent. And then doing and being done by. I think that's a big one, doing and being done by. Because as we are doing in the world, it then is done to us. So again, that comes back to that biblical quote, that as we give, it is given unto us. It's that same idea. And other such principles. So it's that same idea. It's like what goes around comes around, right? We've all heard that, I'm sure. We've all grown up with that, I'm sure, Parents would always say, what goes around comes around, honey, so what are you doing? Anybody ever heard that? Yeah, right? We've all been there and done that. So it's not a fun thing. So now I want to talk about how our beliefs about wholeness can affect our lives, because I think this is the really important thing, to realize this. But you can see how we just talked about the reciprocal nature and how that ties into this idea of wholeness, because it's a part of the whole. Everything that we do is affecting the whole. It's powerful when you realize that. So when I find myself in that place of going, whatever it is, I'm putting that into the whole, and I need to realize that I need to dissolve that energy and put something better in, so that I can create that wholeness that I desire, not only for myself, but for everyone that I come in contact with, and the greater whole that I don't even know, the people I don't know, right? So it's important to realize that how we show up in the whole is going to show up in us, and is going to show up in us individually. So it's that reciprocal nature. How I am showing up into the whole is affecting the whole, and then that whole is reflecting that back to me. So it's that same energy. It's that constant energy that's always that give and take. So for instance, if I'm pouring poisonous energy into my family, or my workplace, or my world, or the earth, what am I going to get back? I certainly can't expect happy workplace, right? If I'm pouring poison into it, I certainly can't. I always love the people who say, it's like, what is it, unforgiveness is like you taking the poison expecting them to die. Because that's exactly what's going on. You know, so it's that same thing. If I'm putting that poisonous energy into something, then I am bringing that poison back into my life. I won't have that happy workplace. I won't have that happy home life. We won't have a happy planet if we're putting poison consciously into it, whether it be physically or mentally. And our mental poison is sometimes much more effective in the world. So we need to realize our mental poison, and we need to alleviate that and come back to center and love and peace and unity and connection and all of those things. So our lives are expressions of the one, or the infinite, or the indwelling, or whatever we want to call God. And it's not just us alone. It's not just each of us individually. So doing our work, as we talked about last week, being all about me, bringing my spiritual energy into me first so that then I can pour that out into the world, is a part of that. Because my personal work is building my life, and my life then becomes a part of the whole when I'm in that place of balance and harmony. If I'm using my spiritual practices. And it's sometimes it's hard to meditate. I understand that. I fought it for a long time. But when we do, it's so much better in life. I always say praying is talking to God. Meditating is listening to God. And it's so important. It's, again, that harmony. It's that reciprocal nature. I'm always talking to God. You know, is God going to be able to tell me what I need to know? So it's like, I've been praying and I've been praying and I've been praying. I always think of that joke. What is it? Oh, the guy. He's like, oh, I just keep praying. I keep praying for the lottery ticket. I keep praying for it all the time. I keep praying for it. And he just is going on, and finally this voice thunders out of the heavens and says, you could at least meet me halfway and buy a ticket. Right? But it's that's the consciousness we're talking about. It's like, are we doing what we need to do to be in that place of balance and harmony? So whatever I'm putting into the whole is returning back to me. So if I want to be served, I must be in service. If I want to experience love, I must be loving in the world. Would you agree? Yes. Absolutely. We have to do that. So everything comes back around. Kindness for kindness, love for love, generosity for generosity. I want to share a story here. A story that Ed and I are going through right now. Reverend Ed and myself are going through, in that we have, lost a beloved friend, a dear, dear friend, family member, and how being in service, what that means. I mean, our plan before this happened was to go to Virginia Beach. It was a vacation. But the universe had something different in mind. And last Sunday we found out that things had taken a turn in a different direction for Tony. So we decided we have to show up. I mean, partially because it's family, but I would hope that if that ever happened to anyone in our community, that we would be able to show up for them in the same way. Because that's what it's about. It's about giving of service. When I stepped into ministry, I said it's about service. It's about giving loving energy to those who need it. And so we became present in that. And Reverend Ed, so close to the situation when it's family, sometimes that's the hardest thing to be in a place of balance and harmony. So I took that role on because I said, this is what I have to do. So I held consciousness. I was in prayer. I would go into the chapel and I would hold prayer vigil, and I would come back into the room and I would talk and I would discuss, and I would, be there present with people, and we would pray. And there were lots of different prayers that were done. There was an amazing amount of prayer done in the hospital before he moved into hospice. But that's what it's about. It's showing up in whatever way we're being called to show up. Because the universe is always telling us how to show up. But the problem is, sometimes we go, that's not real convenient right now, God. Anybody ever do that? I did it like 2 or 3 times around ministry. And then the cosmic 2x4 finally moved me into the right place, right? Because the cosmic 2x4 is always there to remind us, by the way. So when I think of Tony, this man was absolutely amazing to me in that you know, didn't know me from Adam, met me the weekend before Reverend Ed and I were to be married, you know, and was the eternal host. And that was his being. That's who he was, you know. Welcome, come on in. Oh, I made these sausage. You got to try these. So this is who he was. He was this wonderful energy of just welcoming and loving. He was, in so many ways, when I think of Tony, I think of the Christ consciousness. There are just some people that you meet in life that are just that way, that are just that loving, welcoming. I mean, I don't think he had an enemy. I don't think there was anybody that he disliked or hated. And that's just who he was. Because it was like he was the eternal optimist. And that's what carried him so long through his process of going through this cancer. But so the reason I share that story is that when we give that service, that comes back to us. Because what I got from that was so amazing, was so powerful. And we're still showing up with the family because they're going through some grieving now. So we're still showing up in that. And so on Tuesday we're going to be giving the message, you know, at his celebration of life, which is what he wanted. And we were so blessed in that he was touched on that very special day that we became ministers. He came to our graduation and something changed in Tony at a level of spirituality. And so that was like the beginning of that beautiful journey that he just culminated. But that journey is still going on because we know he's eternal. We know he didn't end. That's not the end of it. That's not, you know, the physical body could no longer sustain the spirit, so the spirit is free. And that's what it's about. And that's what we're about. So when I think about that, I just want to share this from Ernest Holmes, which we're going to be sharing at the memorial. But I just think this is so beautiful because this so speaks of who he was as an individual. Real giving is the art of transmitting ourselves to others and to the conditions and situations that surround us. Would you agree with that? It really is. It's about transmitting what we are. This kind of giving is not something for special occasions only. It should become a habit growing out of our desire to live life to the fullest extent. Would you agree that we should be living this all the time? Yeah, granted, we have our days, but this is what we should be going for, because when we do, what are we doing? We're building more. Only that which becomes an inward habit of thought can spontaneously flow from the heart and transmit itself to everything we touch. Is that not true? Do we not do that all the time when we are in that place of zeal, friendliness, and joy, and that's the work that we're doing? We are transmitting that to the world. It's awesome. So just as life belongs to the one who lives it, to the one who takes it, so the fuller life belongs only to the one who scatters every good he has. Scatters every good he has. This was Tony. He scattered every good he had. That's who he was. And that's how we should be all the time. Yes, it's a struggle. Yes, because life tells us we can't. But no, we can do that. Yes, we can do that. So, it is by giving of oneself to every person, every project, and every association with zest, love, and friendliness that one sees the larger possibility in all things. The larger possibility in all things. Beauty instead of ugliness. Love instead of hate. This is my favorite. The divine hidden within the human. The namaste. Namaste. But I not say namaste. It's the divine in me greeting the divine in you. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. And that's what brings about the changes we wish to see in the world. When we see ugliness, we need to stop and say, no, there is only beauty. There is only beauty. And move into that. You know, when we see hate, we need to go to love. Does that make sense? That's really what it's all about. So let's think about living a life in service to life. Let me say that again. Living a life in service to life. Not only my own personal life, but to the lives all around me. Because if I'm giving and loving of myself, I'm giving and loving of the world. Is that not true? If I'm in that balance, if I'm in that harmony. Because we know that this sense of service to the whole then allows us to be more and experience more. Is that not true? To receive more in our lives. As we give, we receive. Because it always does, and it always will. So I bless you all, and I call you to be of service to life in your life. Namaste. So we join together in the affirmation. So read this with me today. Today I live my life in service to the whole. In this way, I live the fullest life possible. Life is good.
Yes.
Just say that one again. Just as last one. Life is good. Yes. And that comes from Reverend C.C. Coltrane of CSL Greater Daytona. Look, another greater. Just like us. All right, thank you. Spiritual mind treatment, yes. Great. Way to go. All right, time for prayer. So just settle back into the chair. Take a deep breath. Become centered. Recognizing and knowing that there's one infinite universal source. One creative substance, one universal good. This absolute energy, the scientific principle that I call the Mother, Father, God, is indeed in and as and through everything. It is the quantum possibility field. It is that universal energy of good that is awake and aware and alive in and as and through everything, and I awaken to the fact that I am one with it. I awaken right now to the truth of my being, that I am one with all that God is, all of the love, all of the joy, all of the compassion, all of the peace. And as I know this for myself, I know that I am a part of that whole, and that that whole includes all in this room, all who are joining us on Facebook Live, and all throughout the cosmos. For there is nothing outside of this whole. It is all one. It is absolute in its experience in and as and through each one. And each one has the opportunity to remember who they are. And so from this place of knowing my oneness with the one, I call forth a place of knowing the love of each one in this room. And knowing that that love is being poured into the whole right here and right now. And that each one is showing up in life, recognizing and realizing their place in the whole. And their effect on the whole. And in that knowing, bring forward a whole new energy. An energy of beauty, of love, of inclusivity, of all of the abundance and the joy and the peace and the perfection and the compassion and the gentle sympathy. Whatever is needed is absolutely revealed in this truth right here and right now by recognizing each one's place in the whole. And so my heart is full of gratitude and thanksgiving. A peace that passes all understanding washes over me as I gratefully accept all of these gifts, knowing it is always the Mother, Father, God's good pleasure to give the kingdom right here and right now to each and every one in this room, each and every one throughout the cosmos. For there is no limitation in this good. It is provided to all. And so I release, I let go, I allow this word to flow into that infinite, universal, creative energy known as the law. And as I release it into the law, I know the law just automatically does its work. Makes it so, brings it forward into form. This or something even better. For I know there is a divine blessing awaiting each one. And I bless
blessing is poured out now. And so I say, blessed be, Amen, Ashe. And together we ground and we affirm this truth by saying, and so it is.